Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Now, I stab my... What are these? My papers. Let's begin.
I feel like the teacher is getting ready to grade your assignment.
Oh, girl, you get ready. Oh, Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom. And some folks make fun of me saying, Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom. But you know what? That's the stick. And y'all know I've been doing this for a while. So let me do it again. Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warriors Network. Hello, Texas. Even though you're not from Texas, Jen Cunnings, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you. All right, we're going to talk a lot today about, I always throw these things out, never knowing where we're going to go. I would like to talk about the divine masculine and feminine union, vulnerability, self-love, maybe self-sabotage. I don't know. We'll see. Yet, before we get started, I want to read Jen's bio in a moment. I want to let everybody know, of course, this is, we pre-record 2 weeks before this airs. I have several folks who are, looking at the world right now, and it's chaotic, but it's beautiful all at the same time. And I want to really emphasize that. When are arrests going to happen? When are things going to start to change? And I think it is very indicative right now that big names are stepping down. There have been some major deaths, quote unquote, have occurred. So stuff is changing. Hang in there. And for me, life right now is just amazing. So get on the train. All right. Jen Cunnings is a gifted energy healer, transformational coach, and sound alchemist who helps people awaken to their innate power through the path of self-love, energy alchemy, and spiritual mentorship. And I do want to go over the word alchemy in the beginning. With over a decade of experience guiding thousands of clients and students, Jen blends energy healing, sound therapy, light language, and intuitive coaching to support deep emotional and energetic transformation. Okay, I'm going to go slower. Because we're talking about self-love in a second, she is the creator of Self-Love Alchemy, an empowering path to embodying your true divine self. She leads retreats, courses, and private sessions designed to awaken the heart, clear energetic wounds, and activate higher consciousness. Jen's work is rooted in the understanding that self-love, I love this, is not a friggin' luxury, because it isn't, but a transformational path to liberation. She offers a compassionate, safe, and high-frequency space for healing, self-discovery, and the embodiment of divine love. Honey, that's delicious.
Thanks. Yeah,
You're
I was
welcome.
like, I went on that. I went on board with that.
Well, heck yeah. All right,
It's my journey too, right?
Yes, I completely understand that. Can you, before we even begin, talk about what is alchemy?
Sure. So, of course, we have the traditional sense of lead to gold, or, some base metal to a precious metal. But I don't know when the word really came into me as like, this is what you're doing. You are assisting people shift a dense energy back to love. Like, that's the most simplistic way that I can put it, through love. So like, to me, like, my whole understanding and foundation is love is the alchemist, right? The highest frequency of love that we are able to source. And that is what is the catalyst to shift, where we've been, holding density, trapped emotions, trauma, pain, suffering, right? All of that. back into its natural state, right? It's really, it's almost like the alchemy is really delayering.
Yeah.
It's shedding. My favorite quote, which again is my kind of foundation, is Rumi's, "It's not our job to seek for love, but seek and find all the barriers we built against it." And it's through that alchemical process that we are dismantling those barriers and returning to the natural state of love that we are, little by little, bit by bit, with a very long, patient journey of awakening.
Yes, and it's always a process and it always unfolds. And I love to tell my clients too, like when they, I don't know if you hear this, Jen, when am I going to get there? Well, you're never going to get there because
Yeah,
what would that be? It just gets better and better and better.
you're already
Okay.
there.
Yeah, and that too. Exactly. Okay, I want to ask you, so you tell me what you'd rather go into first. I want to know how you came to know about the new earth and the great awakening and also
Mhm.
about your own awakening. So can you start there for us?
Yeah, as far as yeah, I'm trying when you that first question I was like, "Huh, when did I?" Because I remember like when 2012 was approaching, and getting all excited. So there was that anticipation of that shift and awakening. So anyway, without going into like trying to figure it all out, I began to awaken when I was like 18, 19 in high school. My mom had chronic illness. She found other alternative paths because she wasn't finding anything in the Western medicine world that was working for her.
Yeah.
So she began to study like hypnosis and Reiki, and through that, like, started to trickle that back home. I started reading books. I took some hallucinogenics in high school. She didn't know that part. And there was like this, I think there was just this like convergence of, my higher self saying, "Okay, we're going to like bring in some of this stuff, and then we're going to, mom's going to embark on this path." And it was just, I was like voraciously reading all these
Okay,
different
so
books.
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 18 years old. What was it about that you were like, yeah, let me investigate that versus I'm going to go out
hmm
with my friends? And so what sparked your attention? Okay, knowing that your mom, but what else was it?
It's almost like I can't, it's kind of just like, it's one of those things that you're attracted to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I'm thinking of this analogy. You walk into a flower shop and you see a particular flower and you want that one over the rest of them. And it was just like, I would say as I'm talking about that, I think that there was an interest in, no, here's what it is. Okay, I remember now. Sorry, it'd take a minute for all to come
That's
in.
okay.
When I was doing the hallucinogenics in like maybe senior year of high school, I remember waking up one day and knowing like this world is not what I thought it was. Right? This reality, this matrix, this construct that we're existing in isn't quite right. And it was, I don't remember
Ooh,
all the trajectory of it,
yeah.
but it was, this kind of timeline of her bringing in the Reiki and doing all these things and going to like the spiritual shops and reading the books, in adjacent to this own inner awareness that happened on my journey. We were just recreational. We weren't doing, the whole ceremonies or anything. But that was the spark, right? It was like, I need to really uncover, and then of course, 30 years later, still on that path, right? Of what's beyond this that we're seeing, because this isn't quite right, right?
Yeah.
There's something beyond. Yeah. So that's that those culmination of experiences or what kind of
Wow.
began my path. Yeah.
Okay. And I know at that time you were in California,
hmm
if I have that correct. And Jen, it is so interesting. Like I think about, I'm just going to go into this for a second, how things just show up for you, the synergistic of this person comes in and this is aligned. And even at the time when you don't realize, and you can look back as an
Right.
adult or whatever and be like, oh my gosh, this was so crazy how it all came together and the knowledge and the people. Okay, so when you realize that we were in a matrix, that this world isn't what you thought it was, were you did you feel alone by that? How did you work with that? Like, okay, I've got to discover what this actually is.
I don't know necessarily alone because there was a small spiritual community back then. So I
Okay.
think there was like curiosity, and I took workshops, took Reiki. I think one of the first classes I took, I don't even remember the name of it, awakening your spirituality or something like that,
Wow.
learning these different tools. Um, no, I would say I felt excited. Like and almost like I know I have this awareness of something that the majority of the rest of the world is asleep to, you know?
Hmm.
And but yeah, I would say also that there's, and even to this day, especially living in Texas, like, you can't walk into a party, like I'm thinking of, my husband's work crew and start communicating about things that you're, involved in the healing, like they don't understand,
Hmm.
So maybe I'm just used to that. That's kind of part of the par for the course, I guess.
Well, as long as you also have your world as well, like to because it's
Yeah.
like how do you balance being spiritual and being awake to all that is and knowing that so many people have no connection to any of that at all. So having compassion and being able to walk all walks. Was it odd when you went into these classes being 18 and a
Yeah, I was
younger
always the
person?
youngest. Yeah, even now in some of the experiences I have, like this retreat we were talking about that's next week, like there's a lot of folks that are older than me. And it's funny. I've always been the youngest, even I started school early, so I was always the youngest in my class. And even now being older, I still sometimes am the youngest. It's so weird.
All right. So in seeing the matrix, so within that and Reiki, okay, let me see. Let me gather my words. So realizing that the world isn't as it appears. I'm closing my eyes for a second for those who
Yeah.
can see us. But then I know you went into the corporate world for a while. How did that go?
You're so when I took that Reiki class, I knew that that was part of my calling, like,
Yeah.
that intrinsic knowing, but I'm young and dumb and so I don't know how would I make that happen and make a living. So I was like I need oh, and I remember thinking I need credibility. Like if I'm going to do this, I need credibility. And so I was like I better go ahead and finish college and so I worked full time, put myself through college. I'm a Capricorn and a number one, so I always have that, that kind of discipline drive. And then once you graduate college, you're like, well, I better make some money. I better
Right.
continue this work thing. So I never fully got off the path. I always was reading and connecting in groups. I might have vacillated in and out, but it wasn't like I completely abandoned my spiritual pursuits. But I would say I ebb and flowed with them. But I always meditated. I never like shut it out. It was just, oh, well, I'm kind of building, right? I'm learning this corporate job. I went into HR and recruiting and um, then you just kind of get there. And then there was just that piece, there was that point in time after my son was born, I'd gone back to work after spending a year with him where I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I took the leap.
You took the leap. Did you take it knowing that your son was that little? Did you take it slowly? How did you transfer into this world from that world?
Yeah, it was just, it's like you're driving to work every day and you're walking in this like dark corporate building and then getting into the fluorescent lights and I was like, somebody kill me now. You know? Um, and then we were about to have layoffs. And so my husband had started to make a little more money at that time.
Yeah.
And so I went to my boss and I said, I had an assistant. I said, I understand you're going to probably have to cut our department. And if it's between me and her, just choose me. So I was able to get a package and that was like, all right, let's do this, let's go.
Awesome. That I was in advertising. I was in Atlanta, Georgia for like 15 years and my former husband's job was he to Goodyear and they were going to move us, excuse me for a second, from Atlanta to, that we were going to relocate in Alabama. And, my job was everything at that time. And I'd been doing meditation. I'd been with my, excuse me again, my initial teacher for like 6 years. And she goes, Eden, you need to leave your corporate job and start doing this. And again, it was just like perfect timing, because suddenly the job that I thought was, me or whatever you would say it, suddenly was going away and moving to friggin'
Hmm.
Alabama, which I didn't want to do advertising there. So it just opened the door. And my kids were the same. They were two, or almost two, and 3.5, similar to that. So I could move into it slowly. So also, that's interesting how, and children, how that in life just, again,
Yeah.
put you on
What
the
year
path.
was that for you?
Oh gosh, when was that? I've been doing this now for 20 something years. So, but I had been practicing like 6 years before then. So early, okay. Mid 2005, 2006,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. It's a little.
Thank
So
you,
I
Jen.
didn't,
Took me a second.
well, yeah, well, I didn't put this together until recently that I left in 2013, and that was right after the 12, 12, 12. And so I think, there was a catalyst
Ah,
there, and there's always change that happens when you have, children too on top of it. So again, we don't see all these pieces and how they fit together at the time. You're just kind of writing it moment by moment. But I
mhm.
look back now and I'm like, oh, like that's when, okay, like you have to get out there and, start your service and opened a private practice and
Yes.
began working with clients. So yeah,
Yes.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it was more like 2004, something like that, as I'm really trying to think through the dates. All right. I want to chat for just a moment about the divine masculine and feminine union, because I think that is part of the focus for your retreat that's going to be in France. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And
Part of, well, they're multi-layered, as you can probably
multi-layered, but that's going
imagine.
to be
Yeah.
one of them.
That's
Uh,
that's a part of it. Yes.
okay. And one of the reasons I want to chat about this is it's so interesting. I'm going to be recording a podcast that goes in front of ours. So usually I have guests, but I felt driven that I'm going to do this one on my own. So you and
Mm.
I will meet. I will record the next podcast that will be right before yours about specifically the divine feminine masculine, because I started a new relationship that's about 2 months old that is exactly this. So I want to get your interpretation and your impression of that, and why I feel so important right now. All right, you talk, please.
So how do I perceive or explain like the
Yes.
union of divine masculine and feminine?
Yes, or what they
Okay,
are.
sure. Um, well, i- in the most simplistic way is that we all have aspects of ourself, right? We all have different parts. And in our awakening, let's say, and returning to that natural state of love that we are, the ask is that we return to our sacred union of our divine masculine aspect and our divine feminine aspect. But back to the Rumi quote, when we talk about barriers to love, we have significant wounds with our feminine parts and our masculine parts. And of course, I'm not talking about gender in any way whatsoever. I'm talking about our own internal relationship with ourself. So if you can kind of quantify, there's these two aspects of self within the self that mirror all of our outer relationships. Side note, we can begin to see where we have like where there's love that's needed so we can restore love so that union can come back together. So for instance, as an example, like our wounded masculine, some call toxic masculine or rogue masculine. And of course, this is very overt in our outward society and how we've existed in a very patriarchal dominated society. We see a deep wound of insecurity, of I'm not enough. And we can also reflect that within ourselves. I don't know if I've ever met anybody who's not at some level insecure. So, so, so through this awareness, or perhaps a better word, like the lens of understanding the wounds of the masculine and the wounds of the feminine, we can start to heal our own self and heal our own relationship within. So back to the masculine in its toxic representation, it's controlling, it's oppressive, it's all about separation and judgment. It forces it's action without the alignment of the feminine to be in divine flow because it comes more from the mental, right? The divine masculine, it's secure in itself. It has nothing to prove. And so it has this capacity to hold this really beautiful container for the feminine creativity and the feminine flow. Like they need to work in union with each other, but there's so many wounds on both parts. So the divine masculine is movement, it is action, it is actualization, but when it's not in its aligned or in its divine expression, it's all the things I just said about the toxicity, right? So then we have the feminine, and her wounds are she's oppressed, she's insecure, she's unheard and unseen, right? She's not allowed her creative expression or doesn't feel safe in that because she doesn't have that divine masculine to hold her. And in her expression, she is creation itself, right? In her expression, she is birthing, whether that's something into fruition or literally birthing a baby, but the masculine is there to hold her and they're in union and connection. And so I find that when we're able to perceive it through these lenses, then we can reflect internally, like, oh, here, when I'm in a place where I feel insecure, like I wake up one day and I've got this big to-do list of things to do, and I'm worried they're not getting done, and I'm feeling lack, and I go into like a controlling behavior. Well, we better get this work done because I don't feel safe and secure, right? That's not allowing the divine feminine who is like receptive to the flow. So she listens and she responds. And so like I don't know about you, but being in a corporate world and being a Capricorn and not having a real safe childhood, my toxic masculine has been driving my bus most of my life, right?
Yeah.
Most of us. I have not in all of my practice, like, this is a pretty predominant quality that most of us are, and then society and the collective, we reinforce this behavior. We don't honor creativity. We honor production. We honor, get it done, right? Work hard, right?
Yeah.
And so I did a reading for a friend the other day and I heard the words, the great softening. And I was like,
I
oh, I
love that.
love that.
Yeah.
The great softening. And so what does that mean? Like, well, if we're starting to allow our feminine to come in to lead or to rather become in union, but the balance has been, so swung into that toxic masculine for so long, she receives, she listens, right? She is not doing anything that's out of alignment with her truth and her divine creation and the expression of that. But she's also got to feel safe within her own, divine masculine. So the two have to come together in union for us to be that like aligned expression of ourselves. So did that give enough to kind of
Mm,
chew on?
it was perfect, I think. The
Uh,
great softening.
Yeah, and I think, for many of us, as we're tapping into that feminine, and we've seen a lot, in our world, right, Eden, like, oh, divine feminine, divine feminine. It does require vulnerability
Yeah.
and, feeling safe enough to be held to allow that expression to come through. Like, a quick example. I hope my husband doesn't mind telling this story. We were doing a little bit of like eye gazing, like kind of tantric,
Yeah.
hand squeezing, breathing, matching breath. And I could feel myself like scared. I'm like, why am I scared?
Yeah.
And it's like my divine feminine was coming up to be healed. Like there was a part of me that even though I have this partner that I love, like didn't feel safe in that moment because, all the past wounds I've had, or my divine feminine, or my feminine has had. So anyway, like I just had this huge well of emotion and just started like sobbing, like for no reason other than it just came
Yeah.
up, right? I'm
I
sure
hear
we've
you.
all experienced this. And he just literally like held me and got behind me without even like me asking, and just like let me lean into him, and let me be as vulnerable as I could, and I did, like I just softened. And I realized afterwards, I was like, oh, that's what it feels like to let down all my guards and all my toxic masculine behavior, to feel so open and vulnerable, to let someone hold me in that space. Like we just did that. And that was like my barometer, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we can do this out in the world too. Not with everybody, of course. Not in that
Tantric eye
tantric
gazing
way.
with you.
Yeah, no, but like you can hopefully feel into that. Like I can, and then I can be that with myself.
Yeah.
I can be soft and vulnerable with myself. And how often do we not allow ourselves that level of compassion or self-nurturance because we're in the harshness of, you should be, right? All of our mental dialogue of I got to do this and should do this.
Well,
So,
I appreciate you sharing that vulnerable story because when I record in a moment, I'm going to be as vulnerable as possible. And I will share something too with you that emulates what you're talking about. Again, this is brand new, but for those who are working with energy, I have never felt this energy before. Like the other night, it was literally surging out of my hands because it's just simple touch right now. Just I've said we're going to take this really slow, simple touch, and oh my gosh, things. And then same thing, I started to cry, and I've cried before. When deep expressions are coming out, yet with him, it's so easy. Like I'm not like at first I'm like, oh my gosh, here it comes. He's like, it's okay. I'm like, you don't know me that well. And just again to hold the space and just it is just so friggin' tender. And I Jen, my God, I can't talk about it anymore because I'm gonna be woo. Um, but yeah, it's
yeah.
amazing. Like I had no idea. I had
Hmm.
no idea. And you're right. This softening is like watching him soften, watch me. And the same thing you talked about with the divine feminine, her voice and letting it just be and to come out and to have someone right there just going, whatever you need, just let it. I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to hold you, hold the space. It's
Hmm.
incredible. So y'all,
That's
yeah,
beautiful. I love
thank
that for
you.
you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. All right. And why don't we, for a moment, just talking about vulnerability, because this plays into it. And we are at a time where I also believe that vulnerability is so key versus being powerful and being, I have to be this way, that vulnerability is like the ultimate strength. What words would you have to say to that word? It's a great word.
Yeah, I love and I hate that word simultaneously. I want to punch that
Yeah.
word in its face sometimes, but
I, I
says my
felt you,
toxic
honey.
masculine.
Let's purge vulnerability. Ah.
Yeah. But no, I think it's the key. Like talking about love being, the catalyst, the alchemist, vulnerabilities, an essential ingredient to that. And, I would add on to that, it's about authenticity
Yeah,
and integrity, because if we're covering ourselves up, and I don't mean to judge this because it's not, we cover ourselves up, or we shy away from vulnerability because it's terrifying.
it's hard.
It's so hard, and it
Mhm.
brings up these deeply wounded parts of ourselves. Some we're aware of, some we're not. We carry wounds in our lineage, right? We carry wounds in past life. We have so much um trauma that to like unveil that and be vulnerable enough to feel that so it can move can be quite honestly like the scariest thing in the world. And so, but it's when we allow that, then we can allow the light in, we can allow the love in, we can, you know, I see it like how I perceive it in the body is we have all these like closets, and in these closets are these boxes, and they're like locked up and taped up, and it's like I'm never going to look at that. I don't ever want to see that, feel it, because it's overwhelming,
Yeah.
right? And like a lot of this stuff happened when we were kids. So when the vulnerability allows us to open that box, right? And when we open it, if we're, hope whether we're somebody's working with us or we're working with ourselves, we can be intentional to send all that compassion and nurturance to that part of us that is wounded. And that's what the vulnerability is. It's like, okay, I'm willing to allow light into these places that I have done a damn good job of locking up and storing and repressing because it was the only thing I knew how to do to like stay safe.
Right.
Right. It just it's self-soothing. It was a way for it was a protection, right?
Well, and as you talk about these, and especially at the time we are in now, I feel that it's masterful clearing of all these. And like you said, it's interesting that you have these wounds in your own life, but then parallel in past lives. And then the past couple of years for me, it's also been dimensional lives. I mean, it
Yeah.
feels like it's never ending. Yet on some level, for me, it is definitely slowing down. And I wouldn't trade the hardship and the challenges for anything because what's on the other side is friggin' amazing. So my encouragement to everyone listening, and I tell me if you agree, Jen, is just to do it. Go into it like
Yeah.
being a spiritual warrior. That's what it is. Like going into this, it ain't easy. It isn't like, oh, I'm just gonna cross off at this little rainbow and everything's gonna be great. But the hardships
Yeah.
are kind of necessary because if you don't go through
Yeah.
those, you don't have the benefit of looking back at it and going, wow, that was hard, but it was really, really great. Oh,
And
here's
I don't think there's any way to like spiritually bypass that.
right.
I tried real hard for real long to bypass that shit and it don't work. Those
Right.
boxes are still in there and they need to, it's like the shadow work or however you want to
Yeah.
coin it. Like the light's got to get in there at some point. And so it is necessary. And I'll say this really quick.
Yeah.
So, like you talked about the multidimensionality, past life lineage. I don't think we have to go in and piecemeal all of it. It's not like
Yeah.
these boxes have all these files and we have to open every one. Like we could go in there and clear a whole closet of 100 boxes in like one healing session, right?
Yeah.
Or ayahuasca or something that is going to allow you to go deeper where you don't have to consciously navigate it, but you are allowing access to the emotion, to the wound. And that's the alchemy, right? When we allow access and we can bring that energy in, and if you know how to do that, or you can find someone who knows how to do that for you, that's that's the path, right? And there's many different ways to do that. There's
Yeah.
many different modalities and things like that, but we have to allow access. But we can lift these and shift these and alchemize these, but I don't, we can't positive think them, overthink
Oh,
them. Yeah.
heck yeah. And I, right now, like with my clients too, things are going so much faster. Where there's one specifically that I would look back and be like, what she's done in a couple months in the past would have taken a couple years. And it's
Right.
just going so quickly. And so yeah, now I would also stress, is that the word? That now is a really great time to start unlocking some of the closet boxes and all that. Okay, that was really beautifully put. Jen, I want to ask you, what was one of your greatest box closet unlockings? What was one of the most significant for you?
Oh,
If that's okay
there's
to
been
ask.
many. Yeah, there's been many, but
Yeah.
I'm drawn to share like the first one.
Okay.
And I was 39 and
Okay.
I had already, been on the spiritual path, was very, very good at spiritual bypassing. and had done therapy and all this stuff. And so I met this woman, and she, does energy work. She's coaching similar to what I do. And one day, I don't even remember how, but I found myself. I'm not real visual. I'm more like clairsentient, claircognizant,
Mhm.
but I saw myself symbolically like in the darkness, chained down to like a bed or something, complete despair, complete abandonment. It was like
Oh,
the epitome
ooh,
of abandonment, right? And
yeah.
I and it was that day, and oh my God, I mean, I just, once I got there, like terror, fear, grief. And so I was so cute when after it was done, I went to the park and like cried some more and let it all. But I told the lady, I was like, I'm gonna be 40 soon, so let's like unpack all of this before I turn. So cute.
Oh, man. And
But it was so
oh,
liberating, right? I mean, it was
yeah,
terrifying
right.
because I was, came out of nowhere and I'm like, what the fuck? And so, sorry for the language. Um, and so that made me aware, like, oh, this is the work. This is the work, right? Because the light can't go into that dark space unless that I've freed that part of me. I've
And
literally released it from my body emotionally and energetically.
yes.
Yeah.
And how, let's talk for a second too. Like I've had several of those moments as well. And when you're in that, regardless of what you're seeing or what time period or whatever, you are in it and you feel it with every inch of your bones and your soul. Like you are in that moment. And it is freaking terrifying. It's like, what's going
Yeah.
on here? And not that you get more used to it, but when it happens from the first point, like I remember my first experience too, going, what is, like, I literally, I was stabbed, and I felt the pain of being stabbed in my back, and,
Hmm.
and I saw all the people and felt all the emotion, and it was so raw. And again, I'm not there, but I allowed myself to be there. It is how would you describe it? I know you talked about the terror and being, what can you give me more details about what it was like, even though you've given details? Go deeper, I guess.
My body started
Okay, thank you.
shaking. Yeah,
Yes.
my emotions, I was breathing, rapid, but what was happening is my body was vibrating and shaking simultaneously. It was like the release was also creating an activation because that part of me had been trapped, right? It had been
Yeah.
trapped and locked down and hidden away. And so I saw that almost as like it was a massive clearing, but it also allowed like more of my divine self to come in to actualize, right? To actually embody more of my higher self because I was purifying this part of myself that had been held in such darkness. So like that's, I mean, it doesn't always happen the same day or, like that, but like that's one reason why we do this work is when we're freeing these parts of ourselves, we're creating room for that, love, divine self to reemerge, right? Because it's not being covered up by this wound anymore. So
Yeah.
like I was literally shaking, vibrating, activating, purifying, clearing, crying all at the same time. And I've realized over the years that that happens a lot, like with my clients on the table. It's like it's almost like once we've freed that part of ourselves, it allows this other part to like come back online, you know, and like,
Nicely
or
described.
emerging, right? Another part of us or the truer part of us is re-emerging because we've created space.
Mm.
But yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, but I don't
Oh,
know.
no.
Most of us are walking around and just keeping those boxes, and those closets closed. And then we wonder why we have such division in the world. Because it's back to the divine feminine masculine. It's like we're bringing all these parts of ourselves back together in love, right? And that's unity. and there's no judgment, there's no hate, there's no fear, there's no unworthiness in that space. And so then as we return to union within ourselves, then we can begin to see in the outer world that we're all connected as well. Because if you look at like our world right now, you can see massive polarization, separation, right?
Yeah.
And I really believe that that keeps us separate from our own inner, right? Our own inner source. And so we can just keep allowing the outer world to reflect our inner world and say, like, where am I out of alignment with love with myself? And then just keep doing the work.
And for me too, the having the going back into the parallel lives or whatever, like knowing that I was in the first one for me, I was a man, and a lot of
Hmm.
them I have been men. So
Hmm.
connecting with that and realizing that we have been all of it. So we are
Right.
not separate from any of it as well. And man, when I was men, oh man, I was like I was a serial killer in one to women, and it was gruesome, and and realizing that I also had that evil in me, that we're also not
Hmm.
separate from evil. We're not, and not that we
Right.
are evil, but once we look at it and have empathy and compassion for it, it just evaporates. Oh,
Right.
so
It's you're not holding that guilt or shame or whatever you might have still been
oh gosh,
experiencing from that lifetime, right?
yeah.
You're literally transmuting it, alchemizing it, forgiving it so that doesn't it's not in operation and it truly
Mhm,
heals, right? It's
mhm.
truly restored back to love.
Right.
So,
And
yeah,
and it not only healed me, but on some level it also heals the world. I mean, we again, getting back to we
absolutely.
we are all powerful beings in the work if we're willing to do this crazy, beautiful work. And I wanted to ask you, so I do some light language as well. I was watching a
Mm,
podcast with you, which talking about, tell me if this is correct too, Jen. When it started coming to you, you started doing your word was hand stancing. I think there's some hand mudras. Yeah, explain that a little bit because I'd never heard anyone express it that way before.
through the hands.
Yes.
Yeah, my husband and I were sitting out on our patio out here listening to music, and my hand just started dancing like on its own. And I was like, well, I'm not doing this. He's like, whatever, you know?
Had you
And
just
I'm
had a
like,
healing class or anything that kind of spurred this
no.
on, or it just
Well,
happened?
so let me preface. I had already, so when I came across light language, I don't know, like 2010, like
Yeah.
many years ago, and Judy Satori was the first one that I had come across. So she had actually had a class I took online
Mhm.
um opening up to light language. Well, nothing ever happened. So it might have been like a year or so later.
No
But I was
way.
yeah, I was always really called to that. I just, you just recognize the frequency and your
Yeah.
mind can't comprehend it. And so I might have been, playing around with it, but I wasn't at all. Like I was completely n- out of the way, right? Completely out of the way. But I knew once it came through, I knew what it was. I had seen other people do their hands like that. And and I couldn't stop for days. My fingers were aching. It was almost like it just, once the floodgate
Mm.
opens, it needed to come through. And then shortly after that, because I had a sense of it where my mind was not involved, right? That's the key. Like your
Mm.
mind is not in the way. Then I began to like bring through the voice and begin to play with that. And that became, I had to practice on that a little bit because my mind would still come in and, try to share its 2 cents.
Like, what is this? What are you doing? How odd does this sound?
Right.
Neat. Okay, so hand stancing is more common. I guess I'd never heard of that before. But that,
I don't know that it's more common.
or it
I think
happens.
it just depends on, where are you maybe most out of resistance. And in that moment I
Okay,
had no resistance. And so, and then that
makes
took me,
sense.
once the light language came through my voice, that took me on a whole nother journey of like clearing my throat chakra from all the past oppressions and things like that. There, like 3 years of like throat chakra, like uh,
Okay, yeah.
but I think it just depends. Like some people who are more artistic, they might start drawing or writing light codes. Um, so I think, for me, that was just the path of least resistance for
Mhm.
it to come through. And then my other channels opened up after that.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense because for me, I'd been working on my voice for so long, so it just
Mhm.
automatically came here because I'd been doing that work already. Okay, I want to move into the practice in a second. And I know this is a big topic, yet I want to ask you to condense it. I guess is the best way to say it. All right,
I'll do
so
my
I
best.
okay. I know you work on 7 pillars of self-love. And I don't think it's fair to ask the most important of those. Okay, maybe this to get started. So I part of it. Okay, so I just a quick story. Um, when COVID hit, everything in my life changed. My 25-year marriage, all of my friendships, everything. And that's part of this great awakening is so much falling away. So my period of time between then and now was really being by myself, focusing on self-love, healing myself. So it was such an important journey, and not that it's perfect at this point, but I think this relationship is going to open doors that I couldn't open on my own. Okay, you're nodding your head. Thank you. Um, to to get started in that, what would you recommend to somebody?
Ask me that one more way because I got really excited about you and your relationship, and I don't think
Oh,
I quite
that's
heard the
so.
question.
Thank you so much because it is. I sit here and I'm go like I think about it, I'm like this is such a big deal for me.
It feels like it. Yeah, I was all
Yes.
zoned in. So yeah, ask me the
Oh, thank you.
question so I
And
can.
your husband sounds great, by the way. Okay, so to help someone go, this is the you have to start, and self love is the key. Okay, and if you're going to open up into that idea and how to start to go down that path, what is the
Yeah.
way to go? Okay, if you just think about this, that'll help you open up into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So here's this, to me, the easiest and simplest way to start is to bring awareness just through observation of your day to day, what feels uncomfortable, right? Oh, I felt angry. I felt triggered when somebody said XYZ to me. I'm in blame. I'm in shame. I'm in negative self-talk. You name it, right? Whatever's going on. I'm in anxiety. I'm in depression. Whatever's like in your face, whatever's going on your merry-go-round, right? Whatever's here, start there.
Yeah.
And so that's number one. Like what feels out of alignment with love? And and so from that space, my first recommendation, if you're doing this on your own, is to start with your body. And what I do is I walk people, and we can do this as part of the meditation if you like.
Awesome.
Um, I have people connect with their body, their consciousness, the wisdom of the body, and the body will reveal where a wound is that's associated with that outer experience. And through that, just simple, 9.9 out of 10 clients can do this. And if they can't, I can get them there because usually there's a block, right? There's a disconnection from the body. But most people can do this. So if you have, let's say, I'm feeling angry today. Body, where is my anger? Your body will show you and reveal to you through sensation. Some people are more visual, some people intuit it in a different way.
Mhm.
Most people can feel the sensation. And from that space, like that would be step two, just start sending love and compassion or forgiveness or nurturance or comfort or just breathe. Grab your hands, send light to that space. Like anybody and everybody can do that. Like, and if we all did that just like 5, 10 minutes a day, like we just spend a little time self-healing every single day, like, right, that creates the unlocking because so many of us are used to keeping all those boxes locked in. It's self-protection. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to look at it. I'm just going to, stay up here and persevere, do my life. And we got to turn inwards. We got to turn inwards. It is the only way. It is the only way. You cannot do this out here. You have to do it in here.
Beautifully put. And to add to that too, as you're talking about the body, so many of my clients too, oh, my body is failing me. My body is hurting me. And I'm like, your body's just telling you the truth. And your body is masterful and it's wonderful. And if you start to listen to it, that it'll help you move into a whole bunch of self discovery. So
I
why
think if we
don't,
could perceive that our bodies are always the goal, like our bodies love us and are
yeah,
always seeking to return us to love, even if it feels uncomfortable as hell, even if your body's in pain or discomfort, your body's job is to reveal to you your path back to love. And if we're willing to pay attention and honor it as best we can, despite all our programs to, override it with, whatever, the latest health craze or the denial of our body, whatever. Like if we are really honoring, then it will keep revealing to us. And we can develop a relationship in a deeper way than we've had. So I had to throw that last one in there. Thank you.
I love that. Okay, how about we move into the practice based on what you just shared? I love it. All right.
Just be
Yeah, and so
practice.
how long do you want me to go for?
Would say at max 10 minutes. If is that does that feel comfortable for you?
Yeah.
Or it can go longer. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, how about 10 minutes at the
Okay.
most?
Do you want me
All
to
right.
bring any light language in or
Oh,
anything like that?
bring in
Bring
all
it
of
all
you.
in, just do it
Bring
all. Okay.
you. Mhm.
Okay. Um, yeah, so let's just close down our eyes and start taking a few slow, deep breaths just to get centered and connected. You might like to place your hands on your body.
Mm,
You'll
better.
hear me make little noises, and it's me starting to clear some energy. So, um, as we come together, whenever you're listening to this, and you can re listen to this, we are creating a field of possibility, of transformation, of alchemy. And so we can just simply begin to rest in our bodies and allow ourselves to draw our attention inward. And just taking a moment to honor a space of communion with yourself, of connection, loving yourself, honoring who you are, not on the outside, not you as the thoughts, not you and what you're doing, but honoring the true you, letting your breath come into your heart, truly seeing, sensing, and feeling yourself beyond all the outside stuff. You on the inside that exists and emanates the purest love, the truest love, the love of all that is. I like to imagine that love is a brilliant, like starlight in the center of my heart. It is pure and whole and perfect. It is source. It is the universe. It is all that is. And you can allow that light just with your awareness, just with a little extra breath and intention. You can allow that light to turn up. You can allow that love to shine and radiate out, filling your body, emanating beyond your body. You can shine that light and concentrate that light anywhere in your body that needs a little extra love. So I'd like for you to either think of something that has bothered you lately or made you uncomfortable, or maybe an emotion or an unloving thought. Whatever comes to mind, just can be really simple. And as you bring that into your awareness, I want you to connect with the feeling that is associated with this experience, this trigger. If you want to label that feeling, you can label it. So as your heart light is continuing to shine, I want you to really bring your awareness to your body and imagine you can just simply say hello to your body as a friend, greeting your body. And we just simply ask, body, beautiful body, show me where I am holding or storing this emotion, this experience, this wound. Allowing yourself to scan, to feel. It can be very subtle. It can be just a little sensation of pressure. And you may not even need to know. Your body might just be revealing to you already a sensation. And we don't have to know where it came from. So just simply honing in, body, reveal to me where I need to send my love. You may notice multiple places. You can choose one. So whatever you are aware of now, you can place your hands or simply direct your breath. And we're going to just send compassion, send love, send light to any place in your body right now that needs it. If you are aware of a memory or an experience, you can send love there. Maybe there's a person connected to this. Send love to that person as well as your body. And as you do this, I'm going to assist in bringing through the light language so we can assist all of the energies that are held here to begin to dissipate, to begin to return to light, to return to love. So we work together here. You're sending your love. You're sending any comforting thoughts or reassuring words to this part of you. And we breathe in light. We allow the light from your heart, from your hands, to embrace, to clear, to release whatever is needed here today. Perhaps there's just a simple willingness to let go and restore love here. No need to overthink it. Just feel and breathe and allow. Te kane e torahana korobara sanarachere e tororeana a tororeana a tarareana ki. O tororasanare e tororeana o mukore e nakiare e lahana. Iatare laharanare tororeana hadeatakia. Imagine healing light like a waterfall just streaming through your body, swirling around the spaces and places that need it the most here. E kotorore sanaro repetanari itara reana koruma. E tarare sanaraki. You can imagine Mother Earth and her energy rising up to assist, to hold the space for you, to rest and allow, to receive. Kotorore batara modo hrabarana dedera hrama atararia narakire etoromiakia. Akadarare sanare etorora sanarakano kwa. Just breathing deep, imagine breathing in love and just exhaling and letting go. Ekotorra sanare kitarare naraharoma karakia. Ekotorra sanarare pado oronama araki. Ekanarare sanarare tanakia. And just allow yourself to send love to every cell in your body. Allow yourself to receive this love and to release all that is ready to go. Itoro rasanara repetoro remenakiera hariana kor mahasanaraki. Ekotoro rasanara repetanara haro ormata tatakianaraki. Taking a big breath and giving yourself a squeeze, knowing that you can continue to send love and light to this part of you, these parts of you throughout the day, and just a willingness to stay connected, a willingness to keep the energy open so that the love that is already emanating from your heart can continue to flow to the places that need it. And then just whenever you're ready, we can come back together. Open our eyes.
There was a moment there when my earphones did a little it,
Oh,
it yeah, it was perfect though. Perfect timing. I feel really good. I'm gonna ask all the listeners and viewers. I hope you're doing really well too. Jen, thank you so much for bringing all of you into that. It was very sounds very clinical. It was very effective. What other word? It was delicious. It was so good. Um, hey, can you, as we get ready to leave, can you talk about your retreat in France?
yeah. So speaking of divine masculine and feminine, I was leading a retreat in Glastonbury, and we had a lot of divine feminine energy coming through, and Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, and so we after that like just got the call to go to south of France, and I know we're closing, so I won't go into all the detail, but there are south of France is akin to like Egypt and Sedona and Mount Shasta, and there's all these connections to the sacred land, as well as past trauma that some of us have connections to the Cathar area era. And anyhow, so I found a guide for us because usually when I lead retreats, it's myself and my partner. But because I hadn't been to the region and I knew it was going to be really big for me, I found somebody who actually is like a steward of the land and lives there and leads. So anyhow, we're going to be going in September 18th through the 28th. It's going to be a small, intimate group, and we'll be going into different places and that Mary Magdalene and that lineage that hold the energy there, as well as just the land itself. And I can't speak to it because I haven't been there, but I can only speak
Yeah,
to like if you're called there, you're called there. And it's a heart opening, and I've been preparing energetically for it already,
yeah,
and it's already clearing like so many things and activating and opening so many things. So it's a little challenging to talk about because I know it's like beyond my comprehension, like all that will unfold. But
understand.
yeah, so I'll just say if anyone feels that beyond the words, we do have a couple spaces left open. So thanks for letting me share about that.
Indeed. Girl, you're really great stuff. Thank you for again sharing you and your heart today on the program on the show. I really appreciate it. All right, I'm going to put Jen's website down here, and man, I'm booked out, I think, for the next 2 months. Just like Jen, everybody who's coming on, I'm so excited. Very diverse too. Some people have approached me, which is really nice. Which wouldn't have been someone I would have gone to, but it just helps add diversity to the show. So just to let everybody know, keep keep a good smile on, keep your energy up. Good things are happening now. Even better things are going to keep happening. It's a wonderful time to be alive. All right, Jen, thank
It
you so
is.
much.
It is. Thank
All right.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, y'all. See you next week. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.